We are through 9 weeks of the NFL season, and in the post-game interview that he gave, Brock Bowers was quoted as saying, "Behold, I am become death, destroyer of faders." This is stat chasing.
Pat Fryer Helmo.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your sight.
Jamar Alpha Play Chase.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
It looks like we're finally piss boys. You're right.
I think it's a good thing, Drico. The Brock Bowers absolute nuclear obliteration of all the faders coming in week 9 really taught us, delayed gratification. It was an important time of self-reflection, and perhaps it will allow us to be more merciful to the faders here going forward because we've grown in these weeks.
Yeah, it was like not November, but like we did it in October. No Bowers, October. Finally, the eruption spot once we got to November.
Yeah, watching that game. He's going off, like he's having a good day. Loveland had already had the monster day before. And I just was thinking, like, after the first touchdown, I'm like, yeah, but how fun would it be if Bowers got a second touchdown to match Loveland, and it takes a while and then he gets the second one. I'm like, but wouldn't it be cool if the game went to overtime and he could just throw another one on the fire? Oh man, it's such a fun game. Really, really. I mean, the Brock Bowers slappies were rejoicing.
Am I still out, by the way?
No, I can hear you.
I could hear you laughing. Okay, I went out. I was making a joke. I said like it was kind of like not November. It was like no Bowers, October, when we finally got the eruption, and it's like we finally got the eruption once he came back.
Yeah, very, very satisfying. There will be plenty of Bowers talk later when we get to the tight end charts. I think we should go ahead and dive into quarterback here. Not a ton to cover at quarterback, but I do think there are some important either continuations of trends or things that we had discussed in previous weeks that I think are important to revisit. The first note that I had on the quarterback chart was Bo Nix just continues to trend down in his adjusted yards per attempt. Who could have? I mean, gosh, no one even said anything like this was possible. We didn't. God, I mean, if only someone, some wise sage, had pointed out that he was probably going to continue to trend down.
He's playing really badly.
The Cowboys
really
game.
Badly.
I mean, like, we got to give him his flowers for the Cowboys game because he put up a bunch of points there. But even in the Cowboys game, like, he was good, but he did what all the other we just saw Jakobi Meyers cook the Cowboys too. Like, it's not some lifetime achievement award that you get for cooking the Cowboys, but at least he could do that.
Expected. The one, yes. Like, I guess, so Bo Nix 6.5 adjusted yards per attempt. That's in the kind of mediocre to bad quarterback territory. And you look at all of these things where if you look at the next gen stats, they're like completion over expected and then any of the other metrics. Like he's right alongside Russell Wilson, Michael Penix, Cam Ward, and right around like -3 completion over expected. What's weird is like he's good at some things. Like even though the O-line is elite, his pressure to sack rate is one of the best. I think it might actually be he might have the best pressure to sack rate in the league. His rushing is good. Like it's kind of strange where he's good at some of these things, and then he does make the occasional explosive throw, but it does seem like his he's not efficient because he's not completing passes often enough, which obviously important for
he is a little bit better for fantasy.
And I do wonder how much of that is like the Broncos, they don't have the best receivers. Like Courtland Sutton is their best receiver. Like he's like okay, like he's certainly not a elite wide receiver one. Troy Franklin has been the emergence for them, and like I'm a Troy Franklin soppy. I think you are too, but he like I don't know. I do wonder if part of that is just the offense itself, outside of the elite O-line, is a bit lackluster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that if you transplanted, top 10 NFL receiver onto the offense, it probably helps his adjusted yards per attempt. But I mean, Mac Jones is sitting here with like very similar dropbacks per game, and he's over a full adjusted yard per attempt higher than him throwing to Kendrick Bourne, and like he has nothing to throw to either, and it's still working out just fine.
Right.
Yeah.
So he has an elite offensive play caller, an elite O-line. Like you can't make that many excuses for him.
Yeah, the like silver lining or saving grace for Bo Nix is the things that he's good at, the scrambling, the not taking sacks. That's helpful for fantasy. Like that's why he's been better for fantasy than he has been for real life. And the Broncos also are just a good enough team that it's like you can just have a loser back there, and it doesn't really like you have to have a super turbo nuclear loser back there for it to start mattering for how good the Broncos are on defense and how good their offensive line is. So he's probably like at the threshold where it is good enough to make it work for the Broncos, especially on his rookie contract. And he's got time to develop. Guys can get better. And there's enough that, he does well where it's like maybe he can wallpaper over the bad stuff, or like he grows, or they figure out how to just like, let's not put you in situations where you have to do stuff that you're just not capable of. And he, can be a functional quarterback on a second contract for them. But I do think that, adjusting your expectations of Bo Nix of this is not a good NFL quarterback.
Yeah, way overdrafted.
Yeah.
Way overdrafted.
He's put up fantasy points to where it's like, the cost in best ball is not killing you. It's not great, but it's not killing you. But I would expect it to hurt you more as the season progresses is the thing, because we're seeing the trend is continuing down, and he's already played some of the best matchups he's going to have. He already got the Bengals, already got the Cowboys, right? Like it's unfortunately he does not get to play those teams again. So I do think, he played the Giants already. So yeah, I do. I think we see the trend continue.
Steelers.
The good news is he's probably close to bottomed out. Like you actually can't go that much lower in adjusted yards per attempt as the caliber quarterback he is. He's not like Dylan Gabriel bad, he's not Bryce Young bad. So he probably can't fall that much more is the nice thing. But it does probably continue to drag Bo Nix best ball teams down. A guy that I think I have to give you your flowers on this one. I think he's aging pretty well as a best ball pick for what he's been is Caleb, where you've been very much on this all season where the ceiling is undeniable for him. Like you put this guy in a good spot and he's not always going to capitalize but boy, when he does,
right.
It's a fun
yeah. We're in strong agreement that he's a pretty limited reality player. But his play style lands the fantasy points, and in those cushy matchups, he takes advantage of them. And obviously, he got the Bengals without Trey Henderson last week when the Bengals were pushing the Bears. Like that is a nut spot, and obviously he did capitalize. But I think that's like can't imagine like a better scenario for a quarterback than the Bengals without their star pass rusher, and then the Bengals also scoring points. So you have to keep playing fast. But he did sure take advantage of it. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, like probably pretty frustrating quarterback for season long. Like in our main event team, we have Drake Maye and Caleb Williams. We didn't start Caleb Williams over Drake Maye this week. In hindsight, that looks terrible, but I mean, the only
Oh
time
yeah,
we've
we would have
started-
won our matchup if we just played Caleb Williams.
We would have. The only time we've ever started Caleb over Drake Maye was in the Cowboys game earlier this season. But it's just been Caleb has had good spots before too, and it is just hard to predict. Even if the good spot presents itself, it's not a sure thing that he'll produce at the level that he did.
He bombed the Saints game. That was the
right
one where he had the great matchup that he didn't play well.
So when you have a quarterback like Maye, where it's like even in the bad games, you just probably get a nice solid 20-point floor. In a format where you're having to choose who to start, then it is kind of hard to start him. But I think, I don't know. I wonder if his price falls next year for best ball, if people are like a little out on him, because he'd be the kind of quarterback where if he ends up in the back end of the window, he's like in the 12th round. That's a super appealing.
Pretty attractive.
I'm like, I'll be full 100% on board Caleb Stan if you give him to me in like the 12th round. He probably still goes relatively high though. Just it's going to depend on like how the season finishes. Bears probably missed the playoffs, and then so it's just going to depend on how they look, in the final weeks of the season, and if he does have some really big games or not. Because I think the recency bias really impacts the initial pricing of the quarterbacks, and then people get pretty tethered to prices. They do not budge too much there. So. Another guy, this is a trend that we discussed at length, I think a couple episodes ago. We talked about Daniel Jones and how he was kind of sun running sack rate. And boy, the regression all came in one game here. Really hurt him in this game. I mean, my sense is it's more, I think I'm more likely to put this as blip on the radar category rather than like wheels coming off category for them. They've just been so good this season. But it is, it is a good reminder that when a guy is running as hot as that in a stat where we have,
and I've got bad news. So he does get the Falcons this week, but then they're at the Chiefs. They play the Texans defense. They play the Jaguars defense. Then they're at the Seahawks. Like that's a pretty rough.
That's brutal
stretch. That's a pretty rough stretch. And obviously the Chiefs and Seahawks are playing pretty outstanding offensive football. So it's not like those don't scream to me game scripts where they'll just be able to hand the ball off and get her done. Like they're going to have to throw to win those games, I think.
Yeah, Texans one is, woof. Like the Texans matchup for the Colts is probably just really not fun for Daniel Jones.
Right.
I mean, just end up with a slow game.
And Jags have a good defense too.
Yeah, and they, I was surprised how much they were buyers at the deadline because they're sub 50% to make the playoffs right now. Like that's a lot of buy-in to do for. I guess like. You're in year one of the Liam Cohen era, and it's not like the Jakobi Meyers one didn't make a ton of sense to me from like a long-term thing. That's really like we need a bridge to get us, until our guys are healthy, and then we can be in the playoffs with our actual receivers. Cause like Jakobi Meyers is on his last year of his contract, and like I don't really think he's the kind of player that you want to go out and pay the 15, 20 million. Yeah, the market rate is going to be ridiculous for what the Jags benefit from him, right? With Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter there. But anyway, we've gotten on a tangent on Daniel Jones. The other guy that I had a note on, this was like the first game that I watched of Drake Maye where I thought he legitimately looked. It was probably his worst play that I've seen of worst sustained play. The thing about Drake Maye is he'll have a bad play or a couple bad plays in a half or in a game, but usually like bounces right back or does something incredible where it's like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter that he takes a bad sack here and there. He's just so good that he makes up for it. The second half of this Patriots game, if you're a Drake Maye hater, go watch the second half of this game. You'll have a lot of ammo. He kind of looked shook to me. Like I think that the Falcons blitz was really getting to him. I mean, they end up really the fumble at the end of the first half kind of set it off where there's only 30 seconds left in the half. They get pressure right up the middle. And he's just like kind of the lack of urgency of like realizing, okay, I need to get out of Dodge right here. And instead like taking the bad sack strip fumble, and they end up getting the ball down on like the 5-yard line or something. And the Falcons get right back in the game because of that. And the whole Patriots offense kind of sputtered in the second half. So I think this was a good spot to highlight. Like we kind of get the dichotomy of the Falcons defense where against the Dolphins, they were so neutered. It's like, God, how do the Dolphins do this to the Falcons? And I looked just to verify this, but Falcons are second in blitz rate, and they're sixth in quick pressure rate. And so where that does nothing against a team like the Dolphins, where it's like, who cares if you pressure? Like, yeah, good luck pressuring us quick. The ball's going to be gone well before you could possibly pressure us. Like Tua's releasing it so fast, and Drake Maye
should
holds
not
it
blitz
forever.
the Dolphins.
Yeah, don't bother. Like just make Tua sit back there and beat you. Like it's
He's
going to
throw quick anyway.
Yeah, but against Drake Maye, that was the recipe, man. That really disrupted what he was doing. I don't know, if maybe they really dialed it up in the second half. I haven't compared like the splits from first half to second half to see if the blitz rate picked up or anything, or if it was just that the Patriots were less effective at dealing with it. But that was the worst I've seen him be in that second half. So that was him looking mortal. And something I just wanted to flag is like, okay, this is the weakness for Maye. And Pat actually kind of fleshed that out in his walkthrough this past week, where he said, if there's a spot that can give him trouble, like this Falcons defense is kind of designed to do the things that would probably be bad for him. And that was very correct. So I think that's just a good mental note to have as far as like matchup stuff for in the future. If you do have a team that gets quick pressure and that blitzes often, that could be trouble for Drake Maye, at least until he figures out how to stop taking sacks. But that's definitely still a problem for him.
Yeah, and what I see here is interesting. So he had a 30% pressure to sack rate in week 9. His like full season is like 28 or 29%. Like it's you've had your finger on the pulse on this all year, but it's certainly his kryptonite. Like when he's playing against teams with a good pass rush, he dealt with it pretty effectively against the Browns, but that's certainly where he falls down. And then I see he also had 2 turnover worthy plays for a 10% turnover worthy play percentage. Pretty per game overall for him.
Yeah, definitely
decent fantasy day, but per day overall.
Yeah, the fantasy day basically all happened in the first half, more or less, and then he just kind of sputtered out. But the last quarterback I had a note on was JJ McCarthy. I heard stuff that conflicted with what I thought from watching this game. And so I went back and dove into it a little bit more. I've seen a couple people say like JJ McCarthy was actually pretty good. And I don't, someone explained to me, like I'm legitimately asking, like, explain to me how he was pretty good. I think where the people are coming from that are saying that is that the bar was so low that you were just expecting absolute like non-functional offense from the Vikings, where it was like, oh my gosh, they won the game. That was great. But it wasn't because of JJ McCarthy. Like JJ McCarthy had 35% pressure to sack ratio. He takes 5 sacks, has a 56% completion percentage. Like they're more or less hiding him, like he only has 32 dropbacks. It just didn't look great to me either. Like he also gets bailed out on a couple bad throws.
What I noticed is the first like 2 drives were solid, and someone was like, well, maybe these are probably the scripted plays for JJ McCarthy where he looks solid, and then they go to the rest of the game plan and he falls apart.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being the case. I hadn't picked up on that, but that might be. I should go back and watch it again because when I watched it the first time through, I was like, yeah, this is more or less what I expected. Probably like a little better than I expected because I thought that there were some really bad outcomes in the range there. But maybe I was just a little too focused on the later plays and not the early ones where he looked good. But there were a couple throws to me that were like, dude, this guy's getting so bailed out by the fact that he has Justin Jefferson on his team. Like Justin Jefferson is making crazy catches where it's like, I'm sure that, the Amazon Next Gen Stats had the catch probability of that pass at like 20%. And Justin Jefferson's like, don't worry, dog, I got you. But, I mean, he does.
And I'm seeing like even in his kept clean splits, he still only had so this is no pressure. He still only had 5.5 yards per attempt. What I'm like confused about is PFF gave him one of the best passing grades on the week for clean, and I'm like, how does that work? Still only a 53% accuracy. I guess he had 2 drops, but that doesn't strike me as particularly significant. But I'm with you. Relative to the low bar, where we're thinking okay, this guy's just gonna shit on himself. He didn't quite do that, but still pretty ineffective.
Yeah, didn't need to change his pants after the game, but it wasn't that much better than that. He's still down here with Tyler Shuck and Bryce Young, and again, the drop back volume they're very clearly. O'Connell is clearly hiding him. He is not down to have the full JJ McCarthy experience, which is probably smart. This guy's barely played any games in the league, and he's struggled so far. So throwing him to the Wolves and having him do the Joe Flacco or Dylan Gabriel 40 attempts a game, that's probably not good for him. And so I'm willing to give him a shot and say maybe it gets better. But I think the most likely outcome is that you get sub Carson Wentz level play for the rest of the season from him, which is just not a place you want to be living.
Right. So that's our notes on quarterback. Let me switch this to running back. Zoom out a little bit. And so I appreciate you doing the show notes again. Your first note was about Chase Brown, where he's so back, and when you drafted Chase Brown in the second round, it was because you knew about the contingent upside from Samaje Perine, who was clearly going to get injured.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny when you're getting bailed out on your Chase Brown pick because Samaje Perine twists his ankle on a special teams play. That is you can't make that stuff up. There's zero chance that someone tells you that in the offseason and you're like, that's not a thing that could happen in the NFL, but fun story, I guess. I do think it's pretty good for Chase Brown, though. You have they've cracked open the window for Taj Brooks to get an opportunity now. I don't think it's going to happen. It's the competition hasn't been fierce for our boy Taj Brooks this season. So I believe he only ended up with 1 carry in this game with Perine being out. So the Bengals have already shown us what they want to do when they feel like they don't have anyone but Chase Brown. They'll just feed Chase Brown a million touches. And so he kind of looks like he's going to get there again in that same way. I think the big question on Chase Brown now is how long is Perine out and what's the probability that Taj Brooks is actually good enough to cut into the work? He's probably inherently a pretty big dog to eat as much work as Perine, just because if he was good enough to do that, he probably would have gotten the opportunity before Perine. So I think you're kind of wheels up for Chase Brown here, at least for a couple weeks.
Right.
While
so he had a 95% snap rate in week 9. So the Samaje Perine, and yeah, they barely got Brooks involved. They gave Brooks 3 snaps, and only 11 rush attempts for Chase Brown. Obviously, trailing script for them.
There's a million targets though.
43 routes, and then a 30% targets per out run there.
He ended with 14 targets, right?
I was going to say that's going to be a lot of targets.
It was crazy.
Yeah, that's a pretty good expected points profile. Yeah, and I guess you come back full circle to Chase Brown just like getting all the work, depending on how long Samaje Perine is out. But that's pretty phenomenal for him.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about when thinking through the contingent upside, like the ability of the guy to consult, like, could the team realistically be like, yeah, you can have 95% snaps? Sure. Like, is that a thing that a team would do with this player? I think a good example of the difference between contingent upside being realized for guys is look at the Giants backfield after Scadaboo goes down. Tons of the number one lean on waivers is Tyrone Tracy. Turns out Singletary's the 55 and Tracy's the 45 in that backfield. And it's like, yeah, that's just a clear profile difference between Chase Brown, who, massive bell cow in college, and Tyrone Tracy, who's like converted wide receiver, not gonna carry a huge workload like that, never has. So just something to be mindful of when you're thinking through contingent upside bets and how you're pricing that in best ball. I think that's an interesting thing. Another guy who had massive contingent upside, Kyle Monangai, just enormous day. I mean, he gets huge positive rush yards over expected in this game. I think he ended up with like more than 70 rush yards over expectation in this game. I have a problem with this stat because it's like, what some of these, like, go back and just do like freeze frames on the Monangai runs where it's like, all right, the blocks are all set up. Here's the rushing lane for Kyle Monangai. Like, what are you saying is the expected yards here? Because there are some where I'm like, the expected yards are all of them. The expected yards are the ones between the running back and the end zone from here. Like, right. So how do you even, and like, I get it that his thing is not top end nasty speed. He's a big bruiser downhill runner. And like, that's his thing. And he ran great this game. Like, I'm not taking anything away from him, but like, dude, if you have DeAndre Swift in this game, he also runs for 200, but it comes on like 15 fewer carries because he just houses. Like, I want to say there were like 3 runs where it was like, there's a bunch of green grass and there is one dude who has a chance to tackle a running back with any kind of speed. And it's just like, all right. And, Monangai gets tackled because he doesn't have any kind of speed, but like, I mean, even DeAndre Swift, who we're not like, I don't think either of us think DeAndre Swift is like the best thing since sliced bread or anything like that. He's been running well this year, but like, you plug Swift in to those exact spots, and I think probably 2 of the 3 go for breakaway touchdowns.
Yeah, Swift hits the homers.
Yeah. But I do think that what you're likely to get out of this is Monangai has definitely earned himself the David Montgomery role in the Ben Johnson rushing offense. I think you actually talked about this earlier this season, right?
Did I?
Did you not? Maybe I'm just attributing something to you that
I'll take it. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense where you don't want to be using a player like Swift between the tackles more often than you have to. You're at your best where you're hitting outside zone, you're getting pitches, sweeps, screens, stuff like that. So it makes sense that if they're impressed by what he did on Sunday, that they would use him a lot more between the tackles and at the goal line for sure.
Yeah, I do think in general it's probably not as bad for Swift as like the immediate market sentiment would probably think, just because it was already a split, and like if Swift does cede more work to Monangai, it's probably the lower value stuff. Like he's still going to keep the passing game work. The real problem would be if Swift cedes share of goal line and green zone touches that he previously would have got and now cedes those to Monangai. That's like the big pain point. But Monangai was already getting a lot of the short yardage stuff and goal line stuff. So I think it's not quite as bad for Swift as it would seem. But it's definitely a big boost for Monangai. Definitely a little bit of a knock for Swift, but I'm not like panic selling Swift or anything here, for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Monangai's inside the 5, and prior to this, the last 2 games, so week 7 and 8, he had an inside the rush carry in each of week 7 and 8. Then he had 2 week 9, and I want to compare that to like Swift.
Yeah, that's a good call.
So Swift had 3 in week 8, 2 in week 7. So Swift was still very much the lion's share of those inside the 5 carries before this.
So there is room for him to get hurt then if Monangai takes more of that. So that would be how he gets hurt the most.
For sure. It's still an open question to me on if they would do that, because like I think it's not a secret how much the Bengals defense stink. So the Cowboy the Bears off, like the offensive coaches, like they probably know that a lot of his success was based on them kind of not being great. And then the other thing is even though Monangai got 2 inside the 5 carries, he didn't convert any of them.
He did get stuffed.
What is his name? Britton
Brown.
Britton Brown. He didn't get any inside the.
Or is it British Brooks?
It's Brooks. Yeah, it's Brooks.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're right. Because I'm like, I thought he actually did score. British Brooks. That's the name. The first thing I thought when I saw that name was like, what's wrong with American Brooks? So he also got 2 inside the 5 rush attempts and did not convert any of them.
All right, I think that's everything on the Monangai big day. Another guy who had a really big day and just has been stringing them together is Rico Dowdle, who he's fully iced out Chuba. Chuba just did almost nothing. I think he was like 14%.
Fully iced.
Yeah. It was not good for Chuba. You probably I think you're more or less just the flippening happened. Rico is, the one now, and it's not
right.
1A,
They
1B.
said we tried to give. They tried. They basically said, "Hey, coming off of Chuba's injury, we want because we gave him the contract, what he's done for us. We try to give him a chance to like keep that role, show that he was still the guy. But it's the Rico show going forward. So they said that, and that's certainly what they're doing. So I'm just gonna confirm for you. So, 76% snap share for Rico, 20% snap share for Chuba. So that's like when we were kind of classifying running backs into categories, and the way we would have classified this backfield was very clear: Rico starter, and then Chuba is a frisky backup.
Yeah.
That's what we would have said if we had known about the split. That's how we would have described it. So I guess Chuba, nothing more than a desperation start.
You're not starting Chuba anymore.
Like unless, but like they're like you, and you're going to lose if you have to start him probably. But yeah, he's basically not in play in any format now.
Yeah,
where Rico is a complete smash.
There's another backfield where I think a lot of slappies out there were hoping that it would kind of go that way, where you get the flippening, especially with the team coming out of the bye. Unfortunately, the Jaguars did not go that way. Travis Etienne had a huge workload, over 20 carries, looked good too, like did well with them. It is against the Raiders, so we're not going to go crown him king of the world or anything, but he looked very solid and they trusted him with a lot of opportunity. I don't think that you're going to get a Tuten takeover anytime soon. Tuten's still probably just a hold. I don't really know that you cut Tuten.
It's like the way this backfield is kind of like a 60-20-20.
Yeah.
Etienne is a 60. Tuten is 20, mostly on rush attempts, and then LeQuint Allen is 20 based on the receiving stuff. So, like, if it weren't for LeQuint, you would almost have something there for Tuten, but that's not what Tuten does. I don't think you trust Tuten to be your main pass blocker, like you do with LeQuint Allen. And it's like how like you have to be. I don't see how you just overtake Travis Etienne unless Etienne takes a nosedive. Like he like Tuten is explosive enough that like the upside is still there, but like you're saying, the flippening, the increase to Tuten that we were hoping for out of the bye, just not materialized.
Yeah, you're an injury away for sure here, which the Tuten price really wasn't that much more expensive than a handcuff. Like you had some guys that were getting meaningful work that were going to hit your lineup in best ball going where he was going. But by the end of the summer, he was close enough to handcuff prices where you really were getting basically all upside at the cost. But yeah, the way this season's running out, you do need an injury to Etienne for Tuten to smash. And like there's lots of pick, like you just saw it with Rico, where I mean, without the Chuba injury, like he really wasn't taking over. Maybe it happens on a drawn out timeline. I do think the injury probably plays into a lot of the Chuba decline, where he's probably just a better player without the injury, and so the door is not as open for Rico there. So if you get something similar like that for Etienne and Tuten, then yeah, maybe the door can crack open. But right now it does look like Tuten is just like pure handcuff, more or less. So
yeah. And then your next note was about so Kyren. He's traditionally been drafted as like, okay, I know he's not the most efficient, but he gets all the work. Where that is just not the case anymore. And I believe it's actually not been the case for a couple of games where
it's been a few
Kyren
weeks.
is like a 60% player, Blake Corum is about the 40%. So like it's a 1A, 1B situation. So
yeah,
pretty nice win for Corum at the prices he was drafted at. But not like given the even with given the discount on the risk, with that risk materializing, I don't think like a third or fourth round pick is looking great at this on the 6% snap share.
I think if you're telling me late fourth or like early fifth for Kyren, that's a smash. Even with the risk,
that's
right.
Fair.
But yeah, taking him in the third or 3-4 turn, I agree with you that's a little rich. Watching the game, I was kind of like half paying attention to Saints Rams, if I'll be honest, but I like really was tuned in on a drive. I can't remember. Maybe there was like a commercial break on another one. I had it on a second screen. And so I'm watching it, and the drive I'm paying attention to is just all Corum, and he's getting all the touches, man. Like it feels like every play is a Corum handoff. Like, oh my God, they're feeding this guy. What's going on? And then I realized every third drive is the Corum drive. They just do Kyren's 2 on, then Corum's 1 on, then Kyren's 2 on, then Corum's more or less. That's how it was going. And that's how it's been. But man, just like kind of not super locked in on the game, and then like paying attention for the Corum drive when they're just feeding this guy. It's like, oh my God, did Corum take over? He has not taken over yet, but he's like premium handcuff. I'm super happy to see him on a best ball roster. And he is like, I'm trying to think of some guys. Okay, here's a good one, actually. Let's say that I have, let's say I have Tyrone Tracy. Do you want to hold Tyrone Tracy and say I have starting running back points figured out? I'm not starting Tracy. He's on my bench. Do I hold Tracy on my bench, or do I cut him for Blake Corum?
You probably the churn there makes sense. It is like, I guess the reason for Corum is the contingent upside, because even though he's getting every third drive, they still seem to be prioritizing goal line stuff to Kyren. Like, if I look up Blake Corum, he's only got 1 inside the 5 carry this year, whereas Kyren has 7, including 4 in the last 2 games, for just 1 to Blake Corum.
Yeah, Kyron's still their favorite, but they're working Corum meaningfully,
for
and he's
sure,
like
for
the
sure.
clear.
And they're using him in the higher leverage, higher fantasy scoring situations. But they clearly love Corum. And if something happens to Kyren, like, it's the Corum show.
Yep. The next note I had, there were a couple down performances from some top producing running backs. I wanted to get your quick thoughts on, are you concerned at all about any of these, or is this just kind of like noise, just a blip? Javonte Williams.
So this is kind of the second bad Javonte game of the year, which is kind of interesting. Now, he had the bad game, and then he had the bounce back. Let me see. So obviously he had the bad game for just raw efficiency. I'm trying to see though, did he break any tackles? So
he had a sick pass block. He had a really sick pass block.
Here's one interesting. He forced 7 missed tackles against the Cardinals. He had 2 breakaway runs, 34 breakaway yards. I think that the Cardinals just dominated the. I think they just dominated the Cowboys O-line.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I don't think Javonte necessarily had a bad game.
No, it's not one I would be concerned about going forward. Okay, next one.
Like, he still had 5.5 yards per attempt. Like, okay, I'm belaboring it. Like, he had a good game. It didn't work out for him fantasy wise.
Yeah. Next one, Jonathan Taylor. Are you worried?
So yeah, I guess the issue for Jonathan Taylor is that he kind of got game scripted out, didn't he? Not that. I mean, look, I think he probably still played a lot. Looking that up now. So Jonathan Taylor, yeah, he still played the majority of the snaps. He still, like, he ran 37 routes to Amir Abdullah's 4. But they didn't target him. He had a 5% target per run, 0.3 yards per route. So in these kind of pass-heavy games where they're running a lot of or where they're throwing a lot, I don't. It's hard for Jonathan Taylor to get going. He only had 14 rush attempts. Have you seen how many rushing yards he had? I can look that up real quick.
Yeah, he played 62 snaps. You end up with Tyler Goodson in the game at one point, and then Amir Abdullah.
Right, he dominated the snaps. He dominated the snaps, but
yeah, he only ends up. He gets 45 rushing yards total, and then 12 receiving.
Right,
yards.
on 14 attempts. So he ran 37 routes. Like I said, dominated in snaps, but they didn't throw him the ball. He only had 2 targets on those for 12 yards. And so I think that makes sense because Jonathan Taylor, like, he's kind of like beast mode with running the ball, but he's not really a receiver. Like he hasn't been. Like, this is his 1, 2, 3. It's his 6th year in the league. Like, we know who he is. He's not a receiver. So in those games where they're in trailing game scripts, like, you probably will get some games like this. And I don't think you're going to get a lot of sub 4 yards per attempt games. So, like, this is probably like the combination of a parlay of 2 bad things: bad game script, bad efficiency. Like, you could see a bad game script game where he nevertheless still rips off a 50-yard touchdown, so it's an okay game. But we noted earlier in the show that they have some tougher matchups, and so those could be a bigger struggle. And maybe you're not getting 100 yards, 150 yards, and 3 touchdowns every game. Maybe there's going to be some of these type of games sprinkled in as well. Is what I'd say.
Yeah, as we kind of get further in the season, let me read you some opponents that JT has already faced. So he faced the Dolphins, the Titans twice, the Raiders, and then going forward, we are all out of Titans. You know, we don't have any like Bengals or Cowboys or any of those like really cushy matchups. He's got Falcons, Chiefs, Texans, then Jags, Seahawks, 49ers, Jags.
He's got Jags twice, Texans twice.
Texans are in week 18 though for the second one, so for our purposes, it won't matter.
Okay.
But
okay, good talk.
But yeah, it's not a walk in the park for his upcoming schedule.
Yeah, fantastic player. Like, he's definitely going to have some big games rest of the year. They're a great team. He's a fantastic player. Like, they're going to curb stomp some more teams, I think. But the schedule is much tougher. Much tougher. Like they like you said, they've already played the Titans twice, so that's out. And now they've gotten the 2 tough defenses twice. One of them week 18. They've got the Chiefs. Yeah, if you were offering me odds, is he going to score less points in week 10 through 17 per game than he did 1 through 9? Like, you'd probably give those would probably be pretty short odds that he'd score less per game.
Yeah, I think you're probably like 3-1 that he is gonna, outscore. Like, even worse potentially, just because he ran so nuclear hot in the first 4.
Right.
Again, like, not taking anything away from him, he'll still probably be, the best player in fantasy for this season. But we're just saying, relative to what he's done already this season, like, it's probably going to be an uphill battle for him to be that good to close out the season. But he'll still probably be very, very good. Okay, last guy. Did you have any concern for Jahmyr Gibbs in his bad performance against the Vikings?
No.
There was sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
There was some really good analysis from Gretsch on this one, and he shouted out, the name is escaping me, of the guy who did the write-up on this, but he was mentioning that the Vikings really, really focused on getting A-gap pressure, and it was it's basically like a way to cover Gibbs while also, forcing Goff to get the ball out quickly, because if they just send A-gap pressure all the time, then Gibbs is the one that's picking it up. And so it's
you have to block your running back if there's double A-gap pressure.
Yeah.
So you had 15 pass blocks for Gibbs in week 9 and only 2 for Montgomery. Like, Gibbs was on the field for 32 passing plays, and Monty was on for 12, but you only had 17 routes for Gibbs versus 10 for Monty. Like, that makes sense. And then his targets per run supremely depressed with only 18%. I guess only 18%, but and his yards per run pretty low too. So he must not have been catching those targets either.
Yeah, I just thought that was a really cool strategic decision by the Vikings to say, hey, what if we just did this thing that kills 2 birds with 1 stone? We'll get pressure, and we also will not have to cover Jahmyr Gibbs. Like that. Does that sound like a good thing? Does that sound like a thing we want to do? Let's go ahead and do that. So, I'm sure.
I bet there's counters. Like you leave in one of your blocking tight ends in the backfield, and you block him instead.
Yeah, I mean, or you just design quick screens where Gibbs goes like he's going to pick up the guy, and he just lets him through, and all of a sudden you're Jahmyr Gibbs with a convoy of offensive linemen are downfield. So
I'm sure you wound block the A-gap guy, like stuff like there's like you're saying, there's different ways of getting around it, or you just put Gibbs in the slot.
Yeah,
it's like
use someone else to block, please. Yeah. Let's get our most explosive player actually involved where he could get the ball. But yeah, the Lions could not figure that out. Lions did not figure that out in real time, and that definitely was a big part to them losing. But I agree with you. No concern for me on Gibbs going forward. Okay, a couple other quick ones. Is it Joever for TreyVeyon Henderson? He gets all the opportunity. I think for me, it's more of like a tale of 2 halves, where if you watch the start of this game, TreyVeyon looked pretty awesome, man. Like I was into it. He's converting first down after first down, got a couple chunk runs like right off the bat. It's looking good. It felt like they were using him more in the ways. I mean, they did run in between the tackles some, and he was fine there. But there were a couple plays where they just get him outside, and it's like, yeah, this guy's pretty good when you get him in space. But then the second half was just like nothing. Like I believe the majority of his opportunity comes in the first half. And he just was, after the initial like really couple good runs he has, the efficiency was not there for the rest of the day. So I don't know if it was more of a team level thing, because the Patriots as a whole looked a little out of funk in the second half. But what did you think about TreyVeyon here and his prime opportunity?
So I'm looking at his stats, and obviously he was on the field for what? 51. He played 51 snaps. He had a 75% snap share. And here's what's crazy to me is you're telling me he only had a 3.9 yards per attempt, which obviously not great. Like not what we want. He only had 5 targets, 4 receptions for 32 yards. So 8 was that 8 yards per catch. We wanted a better game. We really, really wanted a better game with the Ramondre injury, like 75% snap share, and he doesn't play that great. I'm obviously an apologist at this point, but the team not having a great game, it does shade that a little bit. It's hard to panic on that. Like you'd like to see him force more than 1 missed tackle. You'd like to see a long run of longer than 8 yards.
Can we get any long runs, please, for the home run hitter?
Yeah. Right.
Are there any long runs available?
Like he had a 27-yard run against Cleveland. and that's been the longest of the year by a good amount. Like it's not Joever. And honestly, this is better than it could have been. Like I was really,
I agree.
Worried that with Ramondre out, that they were going to committee the shit out of him. At least they made him the clear starter over Jennings. Like Jennings also a rookie, but it would have been nice to see him take a better advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm taking this as part of it is like setting the table of where we really were on TreyVeyon. We were very squarely on the way to bust town. Like bust was the most likely outcome, prior to this week. I think you got enough this week where it's like the probability of bust declined a little bit. I think it's still the most likely outcome. But if it was just a pure committee, like it would be like, oh my god,
it's
toast, yeah. But yeah, I think we are firmly in the leaving the light on territory for TreyVeyon.
Yeah. I saw somebody in the chat. Sorry, I'm only saying somebody was saying that Swift and Monangai are the same size, so they're interchangeable. That blows my mind. But it doesn't feel true. DeAndre Swift weight.
Swift is like 220 coming out, I thought. Oh, 205. Okay.
205. And his height is 5'8". And then Monangai weight is 207 at 5'8". That's interesting.
Yeah, I know. At the combine, Swift was
like
pretty
a slower version of Swift.
Okay, yeah, Swift was 212 official at the combine, but he's definitely smaller than that. I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing is that he plays smaller than that.
Yes.
Like when you're at the goal line, you don't want somebody who's just going to like change like new plan. No, you want like shortest distance between 2 points, north south, get her in. And I'm just saying I could see somebody, I could see the coaching staff preferring that from Monangai. But that is a good point that they're practically the same weight. But they don't play similarly.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, we need to finish up running backs here because we've been taking a while here. All right, I'm gonna just rapid fire this one. I had a note. I regret to inform you, Tyrone Tracy is not it. When the guy cannot beat Devin Singletary for snap share. Sorry, it's not going to cut it. Don't think we need to add any more analysis there. They're just both. If you're having to start either, like I'm very sorry for your loss. Other fringe running backs that you could be sad about. Texans running backs. Woody Marks is the one you want to own, but it's like, which would you prefer? Do you want to stub your toe or do you want a paper cut? Like, there's no winner here, it just stinks. The other one you can be sad about, Kimani Vidal. So this is weird. Patterson actually got basically the same number of touches as Vidal. I don't know if you saw this. Vidal plays way more snaps than Patterson, but they basically get the same amount of work. To me, this is just like, hey, by the time Hampton is back, don't worry about Vidal, really. But
yeah, so they gave Vidal 12 rush attempts, Patterson 9, and then Vidal gets 24 routes to Patterson's tree, but none of them get targets. No targets for you, sir. Which it is surprising that there was no checkdowns, but I don't know. Like if you're Justin Herbert and you have this pretty nice wide receiver and tight end room, do you want to throw it to Kimani Vidal? I didn't think so.
No, I think I'll just throw it to Arondé Gadsden.
Yeah,
or Lab McConkey. And then the last fringe running back that you can be sad about, Bill, Corey Croskey-Merritt. I think it's pretty not good for him with Daniels out. I think Daniels helps a lot for Bill. I think it's definitely worse now that the Daniels is not going to be there. I heard some analysis that like, oh well, they've got nothing to play for anymore, so maybe they'll just feed him a bunch of work. It's like that's more like hopium to me. Hope? Yeah. I don't know. Like that could happen. He could get more work because they don't really want to, put the ball in Marcus Mariota's hands a ton. But I don't know, man. I think it's a net negative when you lose a quarterback as good as Jaden Daniels. Like you need touchdown equity for Bill, and this definitely hurts the touchdown equity. So I think it's a pretty big net negative for him. He's still getting opportunity.
He's a 50% snap share running back, so he's like the head of a three-way committee, which is not that's not very good. And then you take the ceiling of the offensive efficiency led by Jalen Daniels to Marcus Mariota, and this is like probably borderline startable for fantasy, bordering and startable, but it's just not very exciting. I think, and if you look at some of his kind of stats, he's played pretty well. Like his yards over expected per attempt is pretty good. So
he just hasn't had big runs lately. Like the last 4 games, he just hasn't had any big runs, which is, it's definitely hurting him.
That's a little fluky. So perhaps, perhaps that you get some big games or bigger games going forward. But again, he's also a 7th-round pick. Even though the team really likes him, they've given him the backfield, or they've given him the lead in the backfield. It's not like we have this special reason to think he's a special talent. So I agree with you. You could have big games going forward, like you did have the massive game against the Chargers, but it's definitely lower than 50 percentile outcome than you would have given at the start of September.
Okay, my last note, I believe that we are going to have to go to the backups chart to see this guy.
Yeah, sure.
But RJ Harvey has now scored enough. All he does is score touchdowns. So, he's got that going for him. But he's scored enough to where in the lowest of keys, he's not actually that bad of a best ball pick where he went. He's not great for managed because you're never actually starting him, right? And if you are, it's probably because you're losing. But he's put up 3 like very usable weeks for best ball. You'd prefer to have more, but I think he's starting to become not that bad of a pick. Provided that you built a running back room around him that could support a guy who's really not helpful most weeks.
Was Bede injured last week?
I don't think so.
Because he didn't play a snap.
Let's see. I don't see anything. I don't see anything on it.
No, I don't see any either. When I type in his name, I see these like I see Broncos fan accounts with fiction that they're going to trade Beatty to the Dolphins for Jalen.
He played snaps in week 9. He has 13 snaps in the backfield.
Oh, okay. I might.
But yeah, he just
okay. He on rushing. So yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, he didn't have any carries.
He did play snaps. So he had 13
yeah,
snaps. He had one.
Yeah,
he had
runs,
13 routes.
Runs 13 routes. Yeah.
Okay, so he didn't get a target. How many routes did? So Harvey had 17 routes. So he'll at least advance past Bhayshul in terms of like receiving work, which that's positive. He also got 5 targets. So 7 touches. And if you're going to score a touchdown once every 7 touches, you're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think actually Harvey probably benefited the most from Mims being out because he kind of got the stuff that Mims got last year out of the backfield, right?
Right. That makes sense.
So yeah, it's weird. Harvey is kind of like the. I mean, if you're looking for Sean
it's encouraging that he's gone past Bhayshul though. Like he was kind of stuck sharing or behind Bhayshul in receiving stuck early in the year, and now he's advanced past him. So he's kind of charging in on a 1B role, which not what you wanted, but
he's like fledgling Joker role in the Sean Payton offense, which again you'd really love more than that. But he's one where down the stretch it wouldn't surprise me to see him get more opportunity, and make it more of an even split with Dobbins. Just he's just keeps scoring touchdowns, man. Like there's only so much you can do to earn your way onto the field, but I do think he's one you have to be at least a little excited for going forward. We definitely are leaving the light on for him too.
Right, for sure. And the last 2 weeks he's been ahead of Bhayshul in receiving work. Marginally, but like you said, if he keeps scoring touchdowns, what else does he have to do?
We had a question in the chat. What do you make of the Cardinals' backfield? Is Bam Knight droppable in FFPC? I mean, if you have starting running backs, yeah, like there's no ceiling for him. You're not, the reason Bam Knight is on your roster is because otherwise you're going to play someone that's going to score 2 or 3 points, and very likely that time is coming for Bam Knight here if Trey Benson gets back.
One thing that I noticed is in the solve the game away mode. This is one of the few games I actually watched in the solve the game away. I had a matchup where we had McBride against Bam Knight. We had the points advantage, but we had a sweat. So I was following Bam Knight in the solve the game away. It was DeMarcado who's getting the carries, and when they needed to get first downs, it was him. And if you look at DeMarcado, he had 14 rush attempts to Bam Knight's 9. So it kind of started the game with Bam Knight getting a lot of the rush attempts and finished the game with DeMarcado getting the rush attempts. And what's kind of surprising is that Knight still finishes ahead in routes, whereas I always thought of DeMarcado as like the receiving work guy for them. So that's I have to admit, a little bit confusing. But I think unless there's an unreported injury or something like that, you're probably looking at 50% Bam Knight. Yeah, maybe, and then there's another note here. Maybe it was just a drive-by-drive rotation. I certainly didn't notice that, but I think that does speak to, like, you're probably looking at a 50% work share right now, and that obviously goes away when what's his name?
Benson
comes back. Yeah. Is he droppable? Yeah, the wire is pretty barren at this time of year. I think you still give him another week to kind of figure out where he's at. But were probably you're probably not feeling too bad starting him going into last night, but after last night, like he's a pretty shaky start. Is my analysis.
All right, let's move on to tight end here.
Yep. So this is what we've all been waiting for.
I mean, I think we got to start with the cover boy. We got to start with the Brock Bowers analysis. So 37% targets per route run for Bowers. It seems pretty good. My note on this is there will be no survivors among the faders. I mean, like, here's the thing. You don't need a 37% targets per route run for Bowers to annihilate you, but you might just get it. Like, it's not going to stay at 37% for the whole season. But I mean, talk about building the plane out of a guy. They're actually not building the plane out of Brock Bowers. The plane is Brock Bowers. There's no parts that you're building out of Bowers. The whole thing is Bowers. And I think it's pretty evident too, because you look at Geno in the 2 games where you have Bowers healthy, he puts up decent games. And also, like, if you watch Geno play, almost every snap, he's immediately staring at Bowers. Like, I haven't looked at the first read target stuff yet. The first read target stuff for Bowers has to be through the roof, man, because you can just bet on it every snap. Like, you already knew where Geno's head was going to turn. Just like, okay, where's Bowers lined up? Oh, he's over there. He's on the right side of the field. He's lined up out wide right now. Okay, Geno's going to look right first. Oh, yep, there he goes. Okay. And then it's like, oh, Bowers is running like a longer developing route. He's like going up the seam. Oh, okay, Geno started, from the left here, and he's working, there's a guy that's working underneath. He's checking that for like a quick hitter, and then he progresses to looking at Bowers as he goes down the field. Like, it's all Brock Bowers all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. The next,
like, what's kind of wild is that he runs. So like, he's kind of projected to run like a 4.5, which I think that's probably about right. And he's what, 240, 250 pounds, where like he's probably maybe not quite Gronkowski physical dominance, but pretty close to it, and pretty fun ride.
Yeah.
They obviously trade Jakobi Meyers away, and they bring in they're going to emphasize probably Tyler Lockett more, and Jack Beck more, even more reason to make Bowers the feature.
Yeah, they're going to give him all he can handle. All right, the next note that I have is, you thought this note was going to be about a different player. It's actually just another Bowers note. He is number 1 in PFF receiving grade at the position, number 2 in yards per route run, and that's including his games where he was playing with a massive knee brace. So if you just look at his 2 healthy games in the second half of the first game of the season, he was not healthy. But if you just look at his 2 healthy games, week 1, week 9, his yards per route run over those 2 games is 3.77. Small sample, but pretty good. And then when targeting him, Geno had a 147.0 passer rating last week. So again, pretty good. Think Brock Bowers might be pretty good. Okay, that's all the Bowers stuff, I promise. We do need to pour some out for Tucker Kraft here. I feel a little responsible for mushing him. I finally came around and capitulated on what seemed like unsustainable efficiency for Tucker Kraft. I said he's just good. He's just kind of baby Kittle, but unfortunately he tears his ACL. Always a bummer when a player that good. I mean, it's a bummer when any of these guys get injured like that and it affects their livelihood, but a big bummer when it's a guy that's producing at the level that he was. Okay, this is one where I think Kyle Pitts is actually like low-key pretty good for fantasy. I mean, especially at his cost that you were drafting him at. He's just like a very solid getting targets kind of guy with a decent ADOT, and he's running all the routes.
He's fourth in tight end air yards. He's probably this is for the full year, and then he's fifth among tight ends for targets. And you were drafting him probably tight end 13, 14, 15?
I mean, I think even after that, he was like, he was going after Ferguson, after, Goddard, after Kincaid.
So
he's pretty late.
When they said they were going to get KP the ball, they are getting KP the ball. And like he's got a 92% route share, 20% targets per run. Like, obviously, I think this is disappointing relative to our expectations for Kyle Pitts' overall career. But this is a pretty good receiving tight end role.
You could definitely do worse, Okay, the next guy, we don't have to spend a ton of time on this because we've talked about him basically every week for the last 3 weeks. But Gadsden is just continuing to string together good games. He is like very much not just like involved in the offense, but a staple in the offense going forward.
Right. Yeah. Even on these kind of off games, he's still posting like a 15% targets per run, close to a 10 ADOT. So still like 50 air yards on like a kind of like a down game, so to speak. Consolidated the routes, so 85% routes. Massive win. You start him every week in the flex in tight end premium.
Juwan Johnson is the next guy I have a note on. He had a good game. He gets in the end zone here. And what do you think about him now after the Shaheed trade? I mean, I would assume that he soaks up a little bit of these targets. He's probably a decent buy here going forward. Yeah.
He's I mean, he's held on to a pretty strong role this year. So 82 on the full year, 82% routes run, 19% targets per run. Let me see where he comes out in terms of like just overall targets. That's probably going to be the most favorable to him. So Juwan Johnson, where is he? Oh, here he is. So that's why I couldn't find them all the way up at the top. He's number 3 in tight end targets, and just this is on the full year. So, and then number 2, just behind McBride in terms of tight end air yards. So he had a pretty strong row already, and then you probably see some of that go to more towards him and Olave that Shaheed was getting. I really think though that the Shook over Rattler is a bummer. That's really a bummer to me. I'm hoping I'm feeling less optimistic than I did last week that they transition to they go back to Rattler, but very, very strong roles for the for Juwan Johnson is what I'm going to say.
Speaking of another Johnson, Theo Johnson, actually pretty interesting from an opportunity standpoint. The problem is I don't want to just call him bad, but he is both good and bad. He has a couple bad drops that I've seen just watching the Giants. Like, he's not the best at the catch point. He's okay with the ball in his hands, but the whole getting the ball into his hands part, it seems like that could be a challenge for him. But he's getting the opportunity. He's out there all the time, So you could do worse.
Yeah, he's got a 78% route share on the year. Week 9, that was 72. So he's close to. He's somewhere between 70 and 80% route share. 15% targets per run on the year. He's got 7.1 ADOT.
Yeah, both of those have been trending.
End role.
And it's been trending up lately is a thing too. Like he's higher targets per route run lately, higher ADOT.
Yeah,
lately.
true. It's a solid tight end role. It's like you say though, like even though like he's definitely NFL quality, he's not at the top quality of the position. No. So like you've got a limitation there from the talent perspective.
Okay, we saved the best for last. I know you're frothing at the mouth to get to this tight end, but Colston Loveland did a thing, Rico.
Yeah, he had a massive breakout, and he's another guy where his so last week he was at 21% targets per run, 77% routes, 11 ADOT. And they had a lot of dropbacks, which I think that's kind of a feature of that Bears offense. And then when you compare that, his 21% targets per run, he's 17% for the full year. So, like, I think to kind of wrap a narrative around this, I think if we had not seen the Komet injury, we would have seen Loveland surpass Komet at this point anyway. And then you see him pull out a massive play when they needed to win the game, where like he got open in the space between the zone. He took a huge hit, like spun around, kept running like he didn't like nothing happened. I'm pretty excited about that. Where I think he's already earned that starting role, and I'm hopeful that the big performance means that he's a bigger part of the receiving game as well. And like such a great rookie tight end profile, where like he was like the receiving offense at Michigan at such a like young age, and then supreme draft capital for a tight end as well. So pretty excited, and I needed this like I needed air. Like I was like gasping for something from Loveland. So love to see it.
Yeah, definitely optimistic that he can now make the most of some increased opportunity off of this big production. I think that's all for tight ends here.
And I guess the other thing I should note, his ADOT for the year is 10. So like that's pretty strong for a tight end. So like if he can get decent target share, especially down the field on a good route share, like that should hit pretty nicely down the stretch.
Yeah, that's a good shout. All right, let's head to receivers here. So the first note I had on receivers is actually Colston Loveland's teammate. You got Rome Odunze here, where, man, the regression do be hitting hard for Rome Odunze. I mean, if you remember back to like week 4, Rome Odunze is like at the top of the very, very top of the chart. You know, it turns out you cannot sustain scoring 5 touchdowns in 4 games. That's not a thing. Unfortunately, over the course of the season, unless you're, you know, like LaDainian Tomlinson or something. And LaDainian Tomlinson, Rome Odunze is not. Puts up a 0 in a game with like 80 points. So
that's tough, isn't it?
That's a little disappointing if you're a Rome Odunze manager. I mean, you are experiencing the pendulum of regression swinging back the other way right now. Where the real Rome Odunze production lies is probably a little bit better, honestly, than where he's sitting right now.
Like against Baltimore, they had 114. He had 114 yards on 10 targets.
Yeah.
Whereas this week he only has 2 targets, doesn't catch any of them. That is pretty puzzling. Like, did the Bengals decide you will not beat us with Rome Odunze?
There's been some ball knower film grinder talk of, you know, the Bengals shutdown corner taking away number 1 receivers, and that's why. But I mean, I do think part of it was Caleb kind of got frustrated with him early in the game. Rome drops a touchdown in the end zone, hits him in the hands, and Caleb is visibly upset. And like, that's it, basically. Like, doesn't really throw to him anymore. I kind of feel like Caleb put him in timeout. So, I mean, could it be that, the Bengals' number one corner is good? And I mean, he's definitely shut down other number one receivers this season, but I think it might be, I think it's a little foolish to be like, oh yeah, that's the reason why Rome Odunze didn't produce. Like, I think that is a factor to why, but I don't know that that's everything. I do think part of the Rome profile is he's the guy that Caleb is passing to deep downfield. And so you are going to be pretty vulnerable to the volatility that comes with that role, where when it's going good, it can go really good, just like Caleb. Like, Caleb's production is like that too. Now, it's pretty unlucky that it didn't sync up in this massive game for Caleb. You would expect that to trickle to Rome some, but that's just the nature of the profile. He has the really deep ADOT, and Caleb himself is pretty volatile, not the most accurate passer. So you're just gonna have to take the good with the bad with a profile like this. I mean, like, right. If we were comping,
and that's kind of the NFL, isn't it? Where like sometimes these receivers they have small games.
Yeah. I mean, where he sits on the chart, like his chart neighbors, like Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, those are kind of like, he can nuke just like those guys, and he also can have a pretty quiet game just like those guys. Now they're a little different in why they're quiet, where for the Bears it's just like, oh, it didn't work out, and for the Eagles,
if AJ Brown played for the Bears, it would be like that. He'd just be feasting every week, probably.
For the Eagles, it's like, oh, we decided that we weren't interested in the forward pass this week, So it's different for why it doesn't work for them. But all his nearest neighbors all are kind of, like DK Metcalf is sort of like the diet Rome Odunze of his offense, where early in the season he was getting a lot of underneath stuff, but lately it's transitioned more to the downfield. Like, he's had the deeper ADOT. And he's like the clear number one, just like Rome, but it doesn't always work out. So I think he's in the right neighborhood on the chart now, but it wouldn't surprise me if by the end of the season we see him like, closer to the Pittman range, maybe a little below Pittman. I bet you see Igbukah still migrate up some, but the negative regression for Rome has been hitting hard lately. Much to the chagrin of the Rome slappies. So, okay, the other guy, this is going to be a wild pivot as far as like player caliber. But a guy I really wanted to talk about was Tre Tucker, who is in the win sprinter category here, but only just. Now, part of why it's only just is because he had that monster game earlier this season, second most fantasy points scored this season, only to his teammate Brock Bowers. But I kind of think that now that you have Bowers back, the Raiders offense is in a position to be a lot more functional. And also, like, if you thought that defenses were going to pay attention to Brock Bowers before, like, let me tell you, like, we're going to see some pretty high double team rates for Brock Bowers going forward with no Jakobi Meyers. So I think Tre Tucker is live to, like, it feels weird to be like, yeah, remember that like crazy fluky game where Tre Tucker dropped a 40 burger? Like, that's on the table again. That's not exactly what I'm saying, but what I am saying is, like, Tre Tucker feels pretty live to have some spike weeks down the stretch here. He's not going to be someone you're really excited to start and managed, but like as a min price DFS kind of guy, or like really low price DFS kind of guy, he's interesting to me. And you're certainly really happy about best ball teams with Tre Tucker on them. It was already money in the bank. And now after the Meyers trade and Bowers return, it's like the stars are aligning for Tre Tucker.
Yeah. Yeah. I see he had like a 9% target spread run in week 9.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
That's still 4 targets because they ran so many routes. This he was already, like you said, a full route share guy, so this isn't going to open up more routes for him. It's just, I guess, Jakobi Meyers was a target magnet, and those kind of have to go distribute somewhere else, and that maybe he'll get one or two of those. And given and like what you're saying is, given that he's the field stretcher, and Brock Bowers probably pulls a lot of that attention into the middle of the field, him on the outside, maybe things open up. And as a prairie yards kind of archetype in DFS, that can be at low ownership, that can be pretty interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Another kind of tangent off the Jakobi Meyers trade. Do we think that is signal that Travis Hunter's injury is possibly worse than anticipated? Where the
they maintain, hey, this one isn't too bad. We put him on IR straight away. But
before the exam, by the way, he hadn't had the exam and he was on IR.
Yeah. It's like a hard one to parse. Part of me does wonder about the trade. Like maybe that's a Brian Thomas. Like you noted the Brian Thomas injury,
and he gets an ankle in this game as well.
Oh
so
yeah,
he
adds a high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
Then they say it's low grade high ankle sprain. But like that, and I guess so. That's your second receiver injury. That does seem kind of like it does feel like they've got a good catalyst or a good reason to trade for a receiver here. Or maybe not good to us, but like a clear reason to trade for a receiver outside of Hunter being done for the year.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, I was just looking at playoff probabilities because we've been working on playoff best ball stuff for the sidekick, and we have the Jags as 46% to make the playoffs right now. So if I put myself in their shoes, they're probably looking at it through rosier glasses than we are. And they're like, oh, we're definitely greater than 50% to make the playoffs. They probably think they're more likely than not to make the playoffs, and that Myers being help at receiver while they get healthy is worth the cost. It's kind of a steep price in my eyes for a 1-year rental of like, you maybe improve your playoff odds a little bit. But I don't know. My spidey senses are tingling. I do think the Brian Thomas injury definitely adds to the, like you said, it's a catalyst for the trade as well. So maybe it's not quite as scary for Travis Hunter having like a longer term injury, but just thought it was worth noting. The last guy I had on this chart was also trade related, and that's Chris Olave. We talked about pretty much everyone else and how they were affected by that trade, but we haven't talked about Chris Olave yet. Can he handle any more targets? Can they even target him more? What do you think about him going forward?
So yeah, he was obviously a big target magnet. So just looking at last week, he was actually pretty quiet last week at 13% targets per run. Brandon Cooks had a decent targets per run. Brandon Cooks had 3 targets, which ended up being an 18% targets per run. I guess I do wonder if Brandon Cooks is the ultimate beneficiary of the trade. You probably, I guess what you'd say is that the Olave week-to-week floor on targets goes up, where you probably don't get too many weeks where Olave only gets 3 targets in a game. You still get the 12 weeks that he was getting before. Maybe that's like 12 or 13, 14. Probably the big difference there is that, like I said, you don't get too many games where he's below 5 targets. And Brandon Cooks is, to me, I guess to me, he's probably the biggest direct beneficiary of where, like, almost by like process of elimination, they have to get him more involved now.
You don't think this is the cracked window that Devon Vele needed to get his opportunity going?
Hayden Winks had this where like if you net out them trading, they traded a 5th and a 7th to get it was like they traded a 7th round pick to get Vele, and then they traded Shaheed for a 5th. And so like if you net them out, it's like you went from Shaheed to Vele by going from a 7th round pick to a 5th round pick. And it's like what are these guys doing?
Yeah, not great there.
So was Vele even playing before? Like I don't think he's getting targeted, but let me look up his snaps.
Let's see.
Devon Vele. So he was playing mostly special teams. So I guess he had 12 snaps.
He got 12 snaps at receiver. Although, to be fair to him, week 8, yeah, he had 37.
Let me see how that compares.
Had 5 targets in week 8.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything.
I guess that does have the door open for Vele.
I do legitimately think it's door open for Vele, but I also legitimately think it does not matter.
Right, yeah, basically.
Okay, anyone else on this chart that you wanted to talk about, or should we move on to the next one?
And looking through this here now. No, I think with the Shaheed to the Seahawks, it makes sense to touch on Cooper Kupp. Where if you're holding out hope for Cooper Kupp, anything from Cooper Kupp this year, you no longer should.
No, yeah, that's.
I think the light was off anyway, but that should be even more abundantly clear now.
Yeah, the ship has sailed.
Yeah, so then moving on to our next chart. And so Rashi has graduated, so now we have the same chart being broken twice rather than both of our charts being broken.
Yep, Rashi and Puka just living up there as the elite weighted targets per route run guys that also are smashing in production. We talked about Brian Thomas a little bit on the last chart, but he's here on this chart, sitting right around 60% weighted targets per route run, pretty close to Troy Franklin, Christian Watson, actually. But I think your insight about him being banged up as a catalyst for the Meyers trade is good. I'm wondering, do you think this is like a buy low opportunity for him? Because maybe you finally get the discount on the name brand. I mean, he still should be. It's probably a
buy low for Dynasty. I don't know if it's a good buy low for this season.
You don't think he could come on down the road for playoffs, or?
I guess maybe. It was just it's like an unreported shoulder injury that he's obviously not having surgery on. We don't know what the prognosis is, so there probably is some probability that improves as the year goes on. But we don't Am I wrong here? There's no reporting on it. It's like an unreported injury, basically.
Yeah, which seems weird. I feel like you kind of are supposed to report that as an NFL team,
but you get your first game without Travis Hunter, and you say, opportunity open for Brian Thomas now, but he is so he gets 5 targets, the same as Travis Etienne, and Parker Washington gets 9, Diami Brown gets 7, so joint the target at number 3 and 4. Brian Thomas with Travis Etienne. So you think he's the one to step up here, and it's Parker Washington and Diami Brown who are getting the looks.
So not really not your cup of tea for a buy low here.
Yeah, and I mean you see that and I get why they're trading for a receiver now.
Yeah. Okay, the next guy who is on a downward trajectory So Keenan Allen has had his 2 lowest route rates the past 2 weeks. He runs 17 routes and 21 routes the last 2 games, 2 lowest of the season. And we talked about this before and said, oh, it's because they're running heavy personnel with Gadsden, and that's what's happening. It's actually not just Gadsden that is taking him off the field. He's actually losing the snaps to Trey Harris because there's still a wide receiver on the field there. It's just Trey Harris is coming in instead of Keenan Allen on those plays. I do think that they like Trey Harris as a blocker. So it's, now Trey Harris is running routes as well. It's not like he's only out there to block. So Keenan is definitely losing some snaps that could otherwise be valuable to him. For me, it is a little bit of a red flag for Keenan where it's like, hey, the guy who's like 33 years old and his routes continue to decline, and you have Gadsden already emerged, and then Trey Harris is now nipping at his heels too. Like, there's just bad vibes for me down the stretch. I mean, if you took Keenan Allen in best ball, you're like, cool, I'm playing with house money here. So like if Keenan does nothing for the rest of the season, it's whatever. He gave me some useful weeks early, and now he can sail off into the sunset. But like in a season-long league, like you're now to the point where I think last week I was at the point where it was clearly Ladd McConkey. A couple weeks back we said just treat all the Chargers receivers as the same. Then we said, okay, Ladd McConkey's the one now, and then it's Keenan Allen, and now it's QJ. And now I think I'm getting to the point where it's like, it's probably QJ over Keenan Allen now, or at the very least, they're like,
no, that makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense to get increased, not scrutiny, suspicious. That's not the right word either. Critical of that situation where there was a pretty clear explanation for Keenan Allen's lower snap count in week 8, which is they played a lot more with the fullback. They played a second tight end a lot more. And if you remember, my point last week was that even though Trey Harris was up to 32% of routes, that's kind of been where he's been at the last couple of weeks. Like Trey Harris was at 34% in week 7 when Keenan Allen got 75%. But so like Trey Harris still at 36% routes. There's not some kind of clear catalyst for them using different personnel packages or whatever. They're just playing Keenan Allen less. So you get that kind of like close to 50% route share 2 weeks in a row. You suspicious, I guess that's the word. Your suspicion is even lower. You've kind of identified a trend here. It's not just a one-off blip. There's not really a clear explanation for it. He probably is just a 50% route share guy. I see he still got 4 targets for 41 yards. McCarthy
he earns targets when he's out there. He's just not out there as much. Right. So like your real risk for Keenan Allen, if you want to talk about like how's he gonna shape up on this chart going forward, like your real concern for Keenan Allen is he's gonna get demoted to the 40 to 70% chart, and he's probably has an awesome weighted targets per route run still, where it's like when he's out there we throw to him. We just don't.
Right, you probably got a 3 to 4 target per game floor there because they still want to throw to him. But when they're like, let's say week 5 when they had 9 targets, week 4 when you had 7, he's gonna have to get out more to week 3 when he had 10 targets. You're not seeing that right now, and we're pretty suspicious that that's not happening again.
So I've got a question for you. I think a week ago we got a comment that said more playoff best ball talk. So here it is for the people. You're drafting playoff best ball teams, and you've got a Chargers stack, and you're playing Chargers to the Super Bowl, baby. You're on the turn. You're on the 7-8 turn here, and you've got a decision to make. You can only take one of them. Do you want Keenan Allen or do you want a Rondé Gadsden?
Oh, Gadsden.
They both fill the WT position on Underdog, so they fill the same roster slot.
They're direct comparables, but you want Gadsden all day long.
You do. I agree. All right.
Pretty clear cut.
The last guy I had a note on, we've talked about him already. Oh, sorry.
I thought we were going to go on that decision all the way down to Trey Harris, and I was going to pick QJ over him, and then I was going to pick Keenan Allen over Trey Harris. And that's in case anyone was curious how that progression was going to go.
I think we're in lockstep on that. All right, last guy on this chart. We talked about this situation a lot, but Rashid Shaheed moving to the Seahawks. I mean, I've gone back and forth on this, on if it's actually a positive for him or not, because you just get an absolute target hog in JSN there. But you are getting a much more efficient offense. Do you think this is a net positive for Shaheed, or is it net neutral, but you just change the way the dials are dialed, or what is it for Shaheed going forward?
So I think that overall, it's a positive. Because you get out from underneath the yoke of Tyler Shough. I think getting away from Tyler Shough is only positive. And I guess you go from target magnet of Chris Olave to target magnet of JSN. You have Sam Darnold playing out of his fucking mind. You have a kind of like a guy who thrives on deep passes, getting paired up with a quarterback showing pretty good deep passes. I think it's pretty positive for Shaheed. Where it's less clear is, and this is where we're kind of going back and forth. It's like, I guess, does it damage Torrey Horton, and how much does it damage Torrey Horton? Where I was kind of thinking, like, the logical way for me to do this would be that you play Torrey Horton and Shaheed on the outside, and then you let JSN feast on the slot. And obviously Torrey Horton, he probably only plays in 3 personnel. It's going to be a JSN and Shaheed in the 2 wide receiver sets, and Cooper Kupp sometimes in 4 receiver sets. Like, to me, that's like the way that would make sense. But that's probably a little bit idealistic. My joke was that, like, hey, I'm nowhere near dumb enough to be an NFL decision maker. These guys have like galaxy brain of dumbness that I can't even fathom. And what are they paying? Like Kupp like $15 million a year or something crazy? And like he probably like he's a vet. He sounds like a vet. He talks about the preparation. He probably does all these little things right. It probably is actually very hard when push comes to shove to actually take a guy like Cooper Kupp off the field. So I'm still holding out hope that Torrey Horton, his 83% route share, is going to hold up decently, but it probably is idealistic.
Yeah, I think the way where I land on it is this is definitely worse for Torrey Horton than Cooper Kupp, but it's partially because it was already bad for Cooper. Right. Like it can't. Cooper Kupp was already dead, and what is dead may never die. Like he already was gonna lose the work to Torrey Horton, or he's gonna lose it to Shaheed. Like, but the unfortunate truth is Cooper Kupp will remain involved regardless of how washed he is. He's going to still be getting snaps. They'll probably go down substantially, but what you're left with is just a smaller pie for Torrey Horton to get a slice of, because Shaheed is here now to take a slice of it. So that's the unfortunate truth for Torrey Horton. Kind of get the breakout stifled. Really, Torrey Horton blue balls here, unfortunately, because he's pretty fun. But I mean, it's pretty exciting for the Seahawks, man, just from like a real football perspective. And I mean, you want to talk about fun playoff best ball. Oh, baby. Give me like last round Torrey Horton. You probably get some like 8th, 9th round Rashid Shaheed too. Like that's a fun team. And the problem with them is their running backs kind of stink for fantasy. Like they're just not massive producers. So they're definitely one where I'm looking at like, gosh, I can just get, I get JSN early, and then I'm getting like Sam Darnold and Horton and Shaheed as my final 3 picks are Seahawks. I can build the whole Seahawks bet just by taking JSN. I mean, shit, you probably can get whichever running back, like your literal last 4 picks.
You're probably going to get pretty good prices on them.
So it's basically
week-to-week ceiling is probably pretty good too.
Yeah, the more I think about this, it's like you just take JSN, and then your last 4 picks are just whatever Seahawks are there. I don't even care if I have to take an Elijah. If I'm doing Seahawks to the Super Bowl, like you're telling me like, uh-oh, dude, you missed out on Rashid Shaheed on this team. It's like, great. I don't want 100% of my Seahawks teams to be Rashid Shaheed. I'll gladly take an Elijah Arroyo or an AJ Barner team,
Right.
I mean, God forbid, I might even take a Cooper Kupp team, depending on how the rest of the season shakes out for him. But like, yeah, I think Seahawks are definitely a pretty fun one, where the other one that I think probably shakes out in a similar way, where it's just all cheap guys. You just can totally backfill, like your last 4 picks of the draft can all be the same team. That's a pretty high, playoff probability and conference championship probability team, is the Packers. Packers get a little, they're like a little less fun after losing to the Panthers, but you probably just get, all Packers receivers and Jordan Love in the last 4 rounds. All right, that's plenty of playoff basketball talk off of the Torrey Horton tangent. The other notes I had here, Xavier Worthy, not great, not super great. He's just like pretty squarely. I mean, if you look at his chart neighbors here, like that kind of do be what he is. Like he kind of is like a, he's souped up Hollywood Brown. He's like fancy Hollywood Brown on the Chiefs. He's getting more targets for sure. He'll score more points than Hollywood Brown for sure. But like, I mean, Tyquan Thornton is there. Hollywood Brown is there. You get Steph Diggs, who's not on the field as much. But yeah, I don't know, man. It feels not super exciting for Worthy going forward. I think my off-season take was that Xavier Worthy, you were just drafting fancy Rashid Shaheed in the 3rd round. That's aging like fine wine right now.
Yeah, but especially with Shaheed now getting a much better team situation. Yeah, it's. I think when I think about Worthy, I think about what we liked about his profile so much, where he had the phenomenal freshman season, and then I guess this is a tangent, but I just wonder if the guy with the blazing 40 time having the great freshman season and then being quiet for the rest of his college career, maybe that's not as good a profile as we would have thought before. Because like it reminds me a little bit of Rondale Moore, who had the blazing 40, undersized, had the great freshman year, and then pretty quiet otherwise. And I'm like, well, maybe the freshman great start for the trailblazing speed guys, maybe that's not as good a signal as we want, because like you're almost double counting that. Like the great 40 time means they get off to the great freshman start, but you kind of need sustained production in college to really fall in love with the profile.
Man, I made the Xavier Worthy note because I thought I was going to have fun shitting on Xavier Worthy, and then you go and compare him to Rondale Moore, and now I'm just really sad. So I guess jokes
Obviously,
on me.
like you're getting a much better outcome than Rondale Moore. But like,
I know I'm sad that Rondale Moore busted, and sad about Xavier Worthy, but
yeah,
no.
Like it's not like this is a pretty decent year for overall. It just it's not what you want it to be. Like
No,
like you get 23 yards and 7 targets. From that you get 124 air yards. So like it definitely, like, this game could have hit in a much bigger way for Worthy.
it's kind of Jamison Williams.
Like the idea
coded.
of like this is potentially, the idea that this is one of the best receivers, potentially one of the best receivers in the NFL. Like we've seen. I don't want to say the book is written, but we've got a pretty good sample size on what.
Yeah, that's not the thing. He's not one of the best receivers in the NFL. But and also I want to retract it's Jamison Williams coded. He gets way more targets than Jamison Williams. That's not fair to Xavier Worthy. He's way more involved than that. But the production is he's like Jamison Williams with a slightly better floor, where like he's not exclusively deep balls. Rice coming back definitely hurts him on that front, where so much of the manufactured and short stuff is just getting gobbled up by Rice. But he's like higher floor in Jamison Williams. We'll get ceiling games from Xavier Worthy. He's gonna, Hollywood Brown is not the only one that can catch deep balls from Mahomes. Although that's how it's been over the last couple of weeks. Like Xavier Worthy is in fact allowed to connect on deep shots. Like you will get
You're going to get those games where he does connect for sure.
But yeah, it's been disappointing so far. All right. The other notes I talked about Diggs already, kind of in a rotation. Just getting limited snaps. Pop Douglas has been pretty good lately, actually. Pop really making the most of his limited snaps. Problem is you can literally never start Pop in a managed league. He's barely running routes, but when he's out there, man, he do be good. But yeah, he's just basically like the Steph Diggs breathe. Like when Diggs needs to come off the field and take a breather, like Pop Douglas is the Steph Diggs replacement. So
it is kind of wild. Like he had like 7 yards per run.
Yeah, I mean that can happen when your quarterback is the best deep ball thrower to ever play the game. And no, I won't apologize for that take.
Best deep ball to ever play the game.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess on an alternative perspective, Douglas obviously had the insane per route efficiency last game. He's like good, not great. 20% targets per run, 2 yards per run, on a 44% route share. Like you certainly see the ceiling. We just saw the ceiling, but like you said, there's nothing consistent here in which you can start him.
And I don't think it gets
solid per routes.
I don't really think it gets that much better for him, even with the booty injury. He's not doing the booty stuff. He's doing the dig stuff. Like he probably gets some more snaps with booty out, but it's not like you don't just get to one-to-one lift him and be like, now you get the booty snaps. Like that's just not what they'll do. If anything, I think Mac Hollins is the biggest beneficiary of the Kayshon Boutte injury. And it sounds like the Boutte injury is a pretty mild hamstring.
Can I interest you in Kyle Williams seeing a 50% route share?
I did see Kyle Williams ran some routes.
So
didn't do shit
when
with
did
them,
the Boutte injury happen early in the game?
Yeah.
Okay. So like Kyle Williams clearly a beneficiary, but he's not suddenly a starter now. He plays, but he's not a player.
The window is open for him to get a morsel of opportunity. So if he can play, you got to play better than Mac Hollins. That's the bar. You got to go out there and show your stuff and show you're better than Mac Hollins. But I mean,
right, Mac Hollins only 50% route share as well in week 9.
I don't know if the people want to hear this, Drico. I think Mac Hollins is a pretty good playoff best ball pick too.
Evergreen content.
I mean, if you're playing Patriots, who by the way are 20% chance to make the conference championship at this moment, pretty good. Basically, like 10% chance to make the Super Bowl if you think about it. It's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, if you're playing a Patriots to the Super Bowl build, Mac Hollins, you could do worse than Mac Hollins, All right. Very last guy I had was Parker Washington. We talked about Parker Washington a little bit. I mean,
I want to take some credit for Parker Washington going in the ship cast parlay. I'd like to believe Pete watched our show and said, "Yeah, I'm putting Parker Washington in the parlay here." Now I know that's not the case, but I know we talked them up as if like they love this guy, and then Travis Hunter got injured, and they do love the guy.
No, yeah, he was a great play. I do think he's a great sell high candidate here, though. If you can get absolutely anything for him, he's definitely not of the caliber where you're like setting him 1-for-1 for anything meaningful. But he's gotten a ton of targets and opportunity lately, and then you have the Travis Hunter injury, so maybe you could throw him in a package. As you're approaching trade deadlines, you stick him in a package with a guy. It's just something where someone checks out his profile, they're not super plugged in, like, oh, Parker Washington, 9 targets. Oh, wow. Like something like that. He's just like a little deal sweetener. But I think he's back to a pumpkin with Jakobi Meyers. Like it's curtains for old boy Parker here.
I don't know. I think their love for Parker Washington might live on.
I mean, for like how long, man? Because like you're saying, unless you think that Brian Thomas is like really, really injured and not going to, like, if you're saying, hey, Brian Thomas is effectively out, or like maybe he's playing but he's not effective for the same duration that Travis Hunter's out, then I'm with you that Parker Washington's still an involved part of the offense.
I guess once Travis Hunter comes back, that's probably when it's curtains. Until Travis Hunter comes back, I think Parker Washington routes and opportunities will continue until that morale improves.
Okay, I think that's reasonable. I think a big part of it comes down to your interpretation of the Brian Thomas injury timeline, which like I was mega Brian Thomas injury bear prior to last week, and then now he adds the ankle. So I probably should land a little closer to where you are. Pat and I had been doing playoff best ball ranks, so we're looking too far into the future. We're like 2 months from now.
Yeah. I see that for sure.
We're like, Parker Washington's fucking dead.
The immediate, and maybe that's why it's a sell high, because the immediate prospects are pretty good. But yeah, as you get later into the year, it's hard to see him being a sustained playoff contributor.
So yeah, maybe it is like it's one more week of Parker Washington. Who do the Jags play this week? Let's see. They play the Texans. Oh no, never mind. Yeah, just sell it now. Just get rid of him now. Don't be greedy. Don't try to hold it through the Texans game with hopes of good production that you can sell. It's yeah.
Well, I'm saying like with the immediate prospects being pretty good, because like he's got the route share, he's got the opportunity until Travis Hunter comes back. Now is the time when you'll get the most value for him.
No, I was with you. I was like, maybe I can be greedy and like hold it one more.
Oh, week. You were taking what I said to an extra degree, and now you're like, okay.
Yeah, I want to be able to dupe the box score bandits. The guys in your league where like they have to see it in the box score to be able to trade for a player. You never in a million years could you possibly trade for a player that hasn't done it yet. Like I want to be able to sell to those guys too. But but I don't think Parker Washington is for those players in your league. You just go ahead and sell high now if you can. All right, I think those are all.
Covers us this week.
Yeah, that's everybody. Well, thank you for joining us. Now we are officially halfway through. In fact, we're more than halfway done with stat chasing, I believe, because we're certainly not going to have a week 18 stat chasing. So greater than 50% of stat chasing.
17.
I don't think we have either.
I don't think we've. I don't even know if I think week 15 is the latest we go, because like we're not doing it on Christmas either.
Yeah, I know in the past we've I've been traveling or we haven't done a week 16 or so. I'll look back here and see what the latest. I mean, this is really good podcasting when you're ready to sign off and you're like, what's the latest we've actually done this podcast?
Right. Yeah, we're just burning. We're burning. Yeah, like everybody's turning off the podcast. So like our like finish ratio is just plummeting.
Yeah, looks like week 15 in 2024. You know what? We did do a week 17 show in 2023. Probably an ill-conceived one at that. I don't think we're going to be running that back this year. But more
that
than
was
halfway.
Probably like a year in review type.
I think that sounds about right. Maybe we'll do that when we ship the FFPC BBT. We can do a year in review.
Yeah, sounds good to me. All right, see everybody. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.